There are two things I know. It's that comic books are important, and that employees must wash their hands before returning to work. This requirement is often communicated through images in public restrooms because pictures are the most universal language. Hygiene is important, but comics are also important. Comic books are often underrepresented in America's classrooms because they are considered to be intellectually and socially counterproductive. Comic books are often considered to be a new and juvenile industry. However, this is not the case, as they are simply modern versions of graphic narration, which includes cave arts, wall murals, the Aztec codexes, and stained glass windows. Expert Scott McCloud defines comics as juxtaposed images in a deliberate sequence, and from this we can see that comics have been around almost as long as we have. One of the primary arguments keeping comic books out of classrooms is the accusation that they perpetuate an exclusively white male experience. While this may have been the case a generation ago, it is not true today. The comic book industry has experienced a tremendous amount of growth in the past few decades and has grown to include new ideas, new creators, and new characters. In 1990, Gail Simone created a character for DC's title Birds of Prey. His name is Savant, and he is both mentally disabled and also gay. Similarly, Marvel has recently hired a Pakistani woman, G. Willow Wilson, to write Miss Marvel, who's one of the first Muslim superheroes. In addition, Boom Studio has recently begun publishing Lumberjanes, which is a comic book series by an all-female creative team about 5 girls as they attend a summer camp for, and I quote, hardcore lady types. All of these changes have resulted in a much greater degree of diversity among the readership, which in turn has led to the medium receiving a much greater amount of attention from researchers and educators. One of the primary factors preventing comic books from entering elementary school classrooms is mature content. And while this is an extremely valid concern, it's an issue that can be easily avoided. Dr. Glenn Downey is a CEO of a company called Comics in Education. He argues that instructors should research titles and talk to comic book store owners and creators for advice on which titles are child-friendly. In contrast, special elementary school teacher Katie Duke provides her students with photocopies of appropriate pages. She uses classic superhero material, such as this panel, to teach literary terms like onomatopoeias, which we can see here emanating as Huntress knocks some sense into her assailants. Comic books are also useful for eminent readers. Native American author Sherman Alexie explains in his article, Superman and Me, The Joys of Reading, that comic books taught him how to read in English. Here we have a panel from Fun Home, which has been translated into German. And while most of us cannot understand what the words are, we can deduce that Mr. Bechtel wants Allison to change her clothes. Fewer people realize that comic books are also interdisciplinary and can be used to teach a variety of educational fields such as science and history. Here we have an issue from the 1940s in which Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman are turned into an electron and a proton respectively. Also, we have an excerpt from the Texas History Movies, which is a textbook that has been translated into the graphic novel format. Another area in which comic books can be very useful for students is by acquainting them with the ideology of historical figures. The X-Men team were based on America's civil rights movement, and the character Magneto embodies the ideology of Malcolm X. An understanding of historical philosophies is important not only for elementary school students, but also for college students. One of the primary factors preventing comic books from entering college classrooms is that many instructors do not feel qualified to teach them, and there is very little in the way of existing pedagogy to support their efforts. Some lesson plans and textbooks suggest that the comics be taught with the words and pictures separated, sometimes even instructing students to recreate the comic book into a text-only document. This undermines the fundamental concept of pictures and words working together. English professor at the University of Texas at Austin, Dr. Ann Cvetkovich, prefers to teach comic books by asking students to analyze every aspect of the words and the pictures simultaneously, one panel at a time. This forces the students to slow down and realize how the pictures both support and expound upon the text. While all of the previously mentioned disciplines can be taught effectively through comic books, they can also be taught through traditional text and lecture. One of the areas in which comic books and graphic novels could provide unique educational benefits is the area of multimodal literacy. Here we have a panel from Batwoman Elegy, in which the reader must depend upon J.H. Williams III artwork in order to navigate through this extremely complicated layout. And similarly, we have a page from Batgirl, which has no pictures at all, no words at all. So the reader must rely exclusively on Damian Scott's illustration. We live in a multimodal world in which the benefits of visual literacy cannot be overstated. We are surrounded by icons, which are images that are instantly recognizable and elicit a specific emotional response. Today, icons are primarily used for branding, and while branding is critical in the business world, it is also very important for individuals, as good personal branding results in a greater degree of one's perception of one's competence and intelligence, which can lead to valuable opportunities. Even on Twitter, which is not a visually focused platform, we can see how people are represented by the images that they upload. Here we have a broken glass and a pretzel on Joss Whedon's Twitter account, and we can tell that there's a story here, and people are likely to follow in order to find out more. Visual literacy is becoming increasingly important as people rely on social media not only for entertainment, but also for business, education, and politics. Here we have a picture conveying a message. It's about an icon, the iconic picture by Michelangelo of the creation of Adam, but it's been reimagined into American photography and car mechanics, perhaps as a statement that art is no longer limited to the upper class. Speaking of the upper class art, let's talk about the movie The Shining. What if we were to exchange the character portrayed by Jack Nicholson with that of Donald Trump? See how that point was made so much better with the picture than it could have been with the words. Comic books are an important interdisciplinary tool that can help students with a variety of subjects, including visual literacy. They can be truly constructive to students of all ages. Not including more comic books and graphic novels in America's classrooms would be truly counterproductive. Thank you.